Hello, everyone. How are you, Jared?
Great, Steph. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's actually kind of snowing here in Ohio.
Hey, we got sunshine and chilly weather in South Carolina.
Oh, I'm a little jealous. It's probably fall feeling, right? My
Yeah,
fall feeling.
a little colder than I like, which is why I'm wearing my sweater today, but I can't complain about the sunshine.
Yeah, for sure. Well, welcome, everyone. There is a link that we would love for you to join and collaborate with us. This will have all of the resources, and we're going to be doing some of the prompting live today. So hopefully everything goes smoothly and we're able to have all of our Wi-Fi working, because again, we're going to be demoing live this session about questioning the machine, where we're using AI and different resources to help teachers move past that base level, right? We see a lot of teachers that are just kind of keeping it at like that DOK, depth of knowledge, level 1, where we want to take what the machine gives us, but we want to pump it up and engage it a little bit more, right, Jared?
We do.
So if you haven't met us, my name is Stephanie, and I'm a teaching and learning coordinator at CAMI, and I'm joined by Jared. So Jared, who are you?
Who am I? Depends on what day of the week it is. My name is Jared, and I am a digital learning coach for a school in Columbia, South Carolina.
Awesome. So again, join the link. You'll have access to all of the different resources throughout today's session. All right, so Jared, can you think of 3 things that you think AI can do and 3 things it can't do?
Well, the biggest one, the most obvious one, is it cannot replace teachers.
Ooh, you don't think so?
I don't think so. I think it's there to help teachers, but you just cannot replace that human component.
I agree. I think teachers are irreplaceable. I think it's that relationship. I think technology can help, of course, but I definitely agree. I don't think the teacher, and I also don't think a reduction in teachers.
Correct. Yes. And
Yeah.
that's kind of an important thing in this day and age where there is a teacher shortage. So
Yes. Okay. And so again, if you're watching, we would love to hear and see your 3 things as well. So as we're doing this, we would kind of like to see yours. Okay. Let's get a can.
I say it can help us lesson plan.
Yeah, I agree. I think it can also help us with lesson planning. Now, sometimes you might also need that eye of the teacher, right? To say, oh, I don't like what came out here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think
that's why it's not going to replace the teacher. It's like, yes, it can spit out information. But again, this is kind of what this session is about. It's like, okay, great. Just put out a good lesson plan. How can I make it better?
Yeah, for sure.
And of course, teachers know their students. So that makes it where it's a lot better for lesson planning to be able to go, okay, I see what AI has done, but knowing my kids, this is what I think they will enjoy the most or benefit from.
Yeah. So AI also, I think, can help us with differentiation. Mm-hmm. It's an area where a lot of teachers struggle because there's just not enough time to differentiate and personalize for all 25 to 30 kids in your class. That can be a real challenge. But I do think that we can use AI to help us with that area.
Definitely.
Anything you think it can't do?
Can't do. I say it's a computer. It really is not going to be very empathetic to situations, to students. So empathy, I think, is one. Cannot generate that.
Yeah. And I've seen a lot of cool images being created with AI. So I think teachers don't have to worry about all of the copyright or any issues like that, because of the AI can really help us when we're trying to create more engaging images to use within our classroom to help our students understand the content. Just watch out for those fingers and those toes.
That's right. I'll tell you too, when you're doing those Google image searches, that is a skill to just bring those images in to make sure they're not pixelated or that they're appropriate. But if you create images, be able to describe exactly what you need and watch out for fingers and toes. But it's really, really neat stuff that will go along with projects.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, what's one more can't?
I don't think AI is moral or ethical or can be moral.
Yeah, I think it can be really a difficult place, right? So again, we want to hear yours. Think about your 3 things that it can and can't do, and just use the comment tool and add a comment over to the side. We would love to see your thoughts out loud too.
And if you agree with any of those, put a little sticker on there. There you go, the heart.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you, Jared. I like this one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good idea. So again, if you agree or disagree, let us know too. We want to hear your thoughts on this idea. So now we're going to dive in. And Jared, what is this AI that people keep talking about? So let's just build that prior knowledge in case people aren't familiar with AI or they're not sure. They probably use it, but maybe they don't know exactly what it is or how it's being used.
Well, and that's true because, if you say AI, artificial intelligence, that can mean a lot of things. There is AI built into your streaming music platform because it's guessing what you want to listen to next. There's AI in our cars, all sorts of things. But when we talk about it in education and for students and for teachers, we're really referring to generative AI. And you can see here, according to IBM, generative AI refers to deep learning models that can generate high quality text, images, and other content based on the data that they were trained on. And that's also very important too, is what is the data that they are being trained on? Because that will play into what is generated.
Yeah, and I think also it's a language model, right? A lot of this right now. And I think that's important to note because some of my math friends are like, it's not able to solve some of these math. Or when I was writing my different proposals for conferences, maybe IdeaCon, and I was like, make this 50 words or less, and it couldn't do it. And I'm sitting here like, it's not that hard of a task to count the words, but like it's, again, a language model. I think it's going to get better over time. But I think keeping that in the back burner of like it struggles with math is also good to know.
Well, yeah, and you're right. It does struggle with, like counting sentences. Like I want a one-liner hook that'll hook students in, and it generates a paragraph. And it's like, no, that's not what I wanted.
Yeah. So I think that also comes with us too, with prompting and knowing how to prompt.
Mm-hmm.
Get to. So our goals for today is we are going to focus on lesson creating. How do we prompt those lessons that we really want? And then we're going to add some spark. This is where you're going to be able to add your spark into today's session and hopefully in your lessons going forward. Any other goals you have, Jared?
I think that's it. I think, well, and one of our goals too is just to introduce you to Gemini and ChatGPT and just some ideas that that'll help add you with your sparking, get you prompting, all of those great things.
Yeah, and have fun, right? I was hoping you would say that.
Mm-hmm. It is fun. I like it.
All right, so here is our lesson. Okay, so again, this is where you're going to pull a standard. So we pulled a science standard, and we're going to be focusing on ecosystems. This is for 5th grade life science. So again, if you need to pause the video, grab your own example. This would be a great time if you're like, okay, I want to pause the video as I'm watching and add my own examples in. Again, great time to do so. So now that we have our standard, we also talked a little bit about that death of knowledge, right? So when you're lesson planning, it's really important to think about those DOK levels. And so we have DOK level 1, which is just basic recall. This is where our students are maybe defining, explaining, they're maybe labeling. It's very low level learning. It does need to be done, and you need to have all levels of DOK within your lesson. DOK level 2 is where we might apply or start to calculate. And I think it's really important to note we need to add this type of depth of knowledge language into the prompting, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, because it can help the computer not just create a level 1 lesson. So knowing these different levels will help us create a stronger lesson with using AI. We also have DOK3, which we can analyze, DOK4, where we're creating and collaborating. So again, there's a lot of great resources here, and Jared's going to explain the prompting.
So if you're not familiar with how to write a prompt, there's a lot of different variety or a lot of different templates out there on how to write really good AI prompts. One of the ones that we really like is the Create Prompt from Google for Education's generative AI course for educators. So if you have never taken a course, you have lots of questions, or just want to learn more, this is a great course to kind of get you started. It is free for educators. It takes, I believe, if I'm correct, about 2 hours to complete, but you get a badge at the end of it. And again, it kind of gives you some good ideas on how to use it with your teaching and with students. And the prompt that it gives you is the Create prompt. So I really like this because when you go to write your AI prompt, whether you're using Gemini, ChatGPT, or maybe something else, you want to define what its role. So what is the character that you are playing, or you want the AI to play? Is it a 5th grade science teacher? Is it an instructional coach? Is it an administrator? You want to define what that character is. Then you want to request the task. So what is the task that you want the AI to do for you? Is it generating a lesson plan? Is it creating a poem, a song, a lab report, whatever it might be? What is the task? Then if you have examples, recommend that you can provide it examples. I know with both ChatGPT and Gemini, you can upload examples. So if you have something that you want to use, you can upload it as a PDF or a Google Doc, and it will analyze that document and give you some examples based on that. Of course, you want to adjust your prompt if it's just not quite right. So, if you generate and you're like, I don't like this, don't be afraid to regenerate and try adjusting any of those things: the character's roles, the task, the example, and then define what output it is. So is it generating a 5-day lesson plan? Is it creating a 9-week unit plan? Is it creating an email? Things like that. What is the output? And then any extra instructions you want to give it. One of the cool things with AI is, to help make it stronger or make what you want stronger, you can have the AI ask you questions. So you can put in your prompt, ask me any questions you may have, and it could ask you questions like, what grade level are your students? What specific things do your students like? And so when you answer those questions, it really helps create the output that you really hopefully will want and use.
Awesome.
Did I cover it all? I feel like I covered it all. What do you think?
I think you did. No, I think it was a really great overview. And again, this will help you. I don't know about you, Jared, but I have recently been using the dictation feature in Gemini. And so I'll click it and then I can speak to it because I talk faster than I type, I think.
Uh-huh.
And that's been really helpful too with using the create prompt of, kind of saying, okay, this is what I want. And then I'm able to provide that detail. And I've been getting a lot better responses when I'm able to talk. So that could be something else that you consider.
Yeah, I'll have to try that on the computer. I've done it on my phone. But
Okay.
I've actually done it.
Yeah, I did it on my phone today too. So that's just kind of what I've been doing. I learned that from Melissa Summerford. So shout out to Melissa. And that girl can talk, right? So Melissa is a good friend of ours. And again, she was like, I just talked to it. I'm like, oh, you just talked to it. What? And so again, that can be another way if you really struggle with getting your ideas out by typing it into a document or into ChatGPT, Gemini, or whatever you're using.
If you have a Pixel phone, you can actually text messages.
That's why
I send it to the top, and anytime I need something, I can just go right to it.
So I need to get a Pixel phone, it sounds like. So again, we have our standard. And so now that we know what we're going to be teaching, we're going to be using the create prompt to help us outline our prompt. So down here, feel free again to grab the comment tools and you can lay out your standard alongside of us. Reminder, you can pause this video as needed to really consider and think about your prompt that you're trying to create. All right,
Yeah,
so
and we encourage you to share it or to fill it out and share it, because one of the neat things is sometimes somebody else thinks of something to put into a prompt that you didn't think of. And so being able to share and collaborate, like the questioning, having AI question you, that was something I recently learned. And so that has been a huge game changer for me. So definitely, please fill this out. Let everybody else see what you are typing. And just, again, sharing ideas is one of the most important things about professional developments.
Yeah. So starting with the C, so character role. So who would be our character in our example?
A 5th grade science teacher.
Yep. So we know this because we've got the grade 5. We also know that we're trying to be a teacher, right? So again, you're going to go to who am I trying to be? So you are a 5th grade science teacher. That's our character role for today. So again, think about what you're trying to create. If it's a lesson, or maybe you're an instructional coach and you're designing a professional learning, that's another great way to use AI too. And then request a task. So what are we requesting, Jared?
We are requesting a 5-day lesson plan that includes assessments.
So right here we've got create an engaging daily, but we said 5-day lesson plan with activities and an assessment. And then we need examples. Okay, so the next part is that examples where we want to match our desired outcomes, right? So we're kind of looking at our standard, and what do you think, Jared?
I'm thinking examples could be, it says food webs, so I'm thinking like graphic organizers or trying to think.
Also, I think it's helpful to know how long your class is. Like, I don't want it to give me like a 15-minute lesson when I have 60 minutes I've got to fill, right? So I think that's important. So how long is our class period, Jared?
Let's say 50 minutes. That's a good round number.
50-minute classes. So we're going to go down here to our example. I'm going to paste that in here. So lesson plan will be for 5 days in a 60-minute class period, looking to support students with graphic organizers. And then we need to adjust. So when we go into that adjust, this is maybe where we need to see, oh, this didn't work out. AI, can you do a little bit more here? So we don't know what's come out yet. So we're going to just kind of skip over that part right now. But again, this would be a great part if you're looking at it, you submit it. I usually submit it. I don't know if you reread it, Jared, or if you just submit it like me. But I usually submit it. And then that's when I can adjust.
Yeah, unless I'm having it generate an email or something. But yeah. If it's just a lesson plan, just see what comes out.
Yep. And then for the type of output, this is where, what are we kind of looking for? So again, we're looking for that daily lesson plan for our standard. And then something that you learned, you said from somebody, was those extra instructions. So what would be an example there?
You could say, ask me any questions you have about students, or you can just leave it general. You just ask me any clarifying questions and see what it comes up with. But, sometimes it'll ask you too, do you have any students that have special accommodations or things like that? And you can reply back to it after it generates the first initial prompt.
Awesome. Okay, so what we're going to do is now we're both going to go to 2 different sites. Jared's going to use Gemini and I'm going to use ChatGPT. And if you want to, feel free to use another site with our same prompt that we have right here. So I'm just going to add a comment over to the side. And then what you do is you take each of these different prompts and you pretty much just make a sentence. And I'm going to prompt it in here. Also, something that Jared reminded me was the quotations. So when we were able to kind of say, hey, you're planning a lesson for this 5.ls.1, and then we were able to type in what the standard said, that's really helping it as well. Okay, I'm on day 3, Jared. I don't know where yours is at. Let's see whose is faster too.
Might be yours because I just realized that Gemini had an update, and I'm over here trying to figure out what it just did.
Done. I win.
This is really interesting. It is like telling me, no, it can't do it. And I'm like, it just did it. All right, here we go. There we go.
I'm a little nervous because the other day ChatGPT was down. And I was like, uh-oh, our session's coming up. You better get back to working.
Yeah, and I hadn't used it in a couple of days. So it's like, why are you giving me? All right. So now that I got something here. Let's see. Do we want to, are we wanting to compare, or are we just going to put down some Spark ideas that it gives us?
Yeah, do you want to share your screen too, or I can copy and paste the Gemini? I don't know if you can share it outside of the domain yet.
Let's see. Let me share.
There we go. Oh, dark mode, right?
Yes, dark mode.
Okay, so here is Gemini.
Yep, so here's Gemini. It's in dark mode. I will tell you, mine says advanced because I do pay for it, and it's not letting me switch back to the free version at the moment. This must be one of the weird things it's doing, because usually it lets me switch back from free to paid. Okay. But I have found that it really doesn't doesn't change really much. But you can see here what I have.
So mine lists out the materials needed, activities, explore, explain, and exit ticket. Is kind of the outline for each day.
Yeah, so I have day 1, and it's broken it down by minutes. So I say it says 10 minutes with an engage, find a captivating video. Good idea. Ooh. This is a completely different thing than it generated the other day.
Yeah.
Divide students into groups for 20 minutes, explain a new concept in its ecosystem, have students elaborate on their findings, and then an exit ticket as the assessment. And it gives you the question right here, So you can put that in a Google form or any kind of other thing to have students answer that. Day 2 is producers, consumers, and decomposers. A lot of collaborative work. I'm learning that this was giving me a lot of collaboration this time around. So set up different stations around the room. So I'm kind of liking this one. What about you?
Okay, so with mine, on day 1, we're introducing. So I like that it starts off because I think a lot of times students don't have that background knowledge of the topic. And I think sometimes as teachers, we're like, oh my gosh, they don't know it. We're going to skip over it and we're just going to start teaching it instead of building it up. And so this one talks about you showing some type of picture of maybe a forest or coral reef. And you ask students, what do you see? So I kind of think it's like, what do you notice? What do you wonder? Question.
I like how it's giving you objectives.
Yeah.
Mine asked me what my objectives were, and I can answer it. But yours gave the objective.
It did, yeah. And then it also like, how do these organisms interact with each other? And so again, students could write their ideas somewhere. So I like that activity. I think that's a great way to build that knowledge. And then they have to define the 3 roles.
A candy whiteboard.
Yeah.
I have an answer on that.
And then they discussed the 3 different rules, which you said that was day 2, I believe.
Yep, day 2 on mine.
Okay, so that's day 1 on mine. And then we explain. So then they have another picture and the students have to organize them into the different categories. And then there's an exit ticket with them writing a sentence describing the roles. So yeah.
And one of the things I'll say is, you have access to both, free versions of ChatGPT and Gemini. So don't be afraid to try both of them and see what comes up and what you might like better. Because sometimes you might be able to get ideas from both. Be like, whoop, I like this idea over here and I like that idea over there. And then you as the teacher, the human part of it, which is the most important part of it, can determine what is going to work best with the students in your classroom, because you know them best, not the AI.
That's why we still need a teacher in the room.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
All right, so now that we have our first day, we want to just spark some ideas. Okay, so Jared, how would you make either yours or mine better?
So I would, thinking about like my classrooms, kids have devices. So I would probably do, like if you're a Google Workspace school, I might put up a picture on a Google slide or a Kami slide and have students ask questions or describe what they see that way, kind of like a collaborative whiteboard space. Especially to get, what prior knowledge they have. Again, if we're focusing on day 1, what prior knowledge they have on the topic.
Yeah, I like that idea. And just like we did, I think it was up here, we use the stickers.
Mm-hmm.
So when it is a collaborative activity, other students can also see. But I think it's really important to kind of say, okay, everybody think first. What do you notice? What do you wonder about these 2 questions? But what I love about technology is you can see your entire class's thoughts. And then they can either use stickers or they can draw lines to make connections with others where they agree or maybe even disagree on those ideas. There was also discuss the 3 different roles. I'm like, how could we make this a lot funner? Because it's just hand out handouts, review examples. How would you make that a little bit more exciting and fun? So we've got to teach them these 3 different roles. But it's like, how, instead of a handout, how could we do that? Yours said a captivated video, right?
Yes, mine said video. But, one of the things you could do too is like a word wall. If you want to go like low tech and have students go to each table and write a word that describes one of those roles or each of those roles. You could also do it as a digital word wall as well. One of the things you come up with is once they learn what each of those roles are, have them write a poem. Have them play that role in a poem, and students can try to figure out others' roles based on the poem that they wrote.
Yeah, that could be a great way too. I also wonder if they could act out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Movement to their vocabulary as well can help.
I'm envisioning a lot of 5th graders running around the room going, "Roar, I'm going to eat you. I'm a carnivore."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then again, I go back to this picture again, and now they're kind of testing, I feel like, their knowledge where they're now explaining. So I think right here, it's kind of DOK level 1 because it's just asking them to categorize it. And I feel like we could up the DOK level by having them not just categorize it, but explain.
Yes.
So then they could explain. And I feel like Kami would be a great tool for this because they could use multimedia. They don't just have to type it. They can make a video or a podcast explaining it too.
And one of the things too, like let's just say this gives you have your 5-day lesson plan here in front of you, and you're realizing that a lot of this is at DOK level 1. Well, you can go back and rewrite your prompt or say to the AI chat, take lesson 2, but I want lesson 2 to be more of a DOK level 2, and then use the vocabulary that is there on the slide that we gave you. So, I want my students to apply the knowledge. I want them to describe and explain the concept, and see what ideas or activities Gemini or ChatGPT could come up with based on those words.
Yeah, so right here, again, in our plan, I'm going to make this actually a comment just because it's so large. It says adjust prompt. That is super important, right? Because like right now, I'm having to do a lot of it. I'm adjusting the prompt, or I'm adjusting the lesson because I'm like, oh, this is not meeting my expectations. Like I like the ideas it's producing, but I'm like, oh, I want to make this better. And so again, adjust is part of that create prompt. So for us, we want to adjust it and add those DOK levels in. And so right here, I'm just going to go to ChatGPT. Jared's going to go to Gemini. And I'm going to prompt it to create some of those DOK levels for my lesson. So right now it's creating a quiz with the different DOK levels for me with answer keys. So again, always go back to that adjust. If you're not getting, or you're having to kind of think a little bit more, or you're still wondering, ask it, adjust it. Gemini will, or ChatGPT can definitely take on your additional requests. I mean, it might break down, but it can definitely try.
Yeah, so Gemini, I made mine for DOK level 2, and it's adding some ideas for science experiments.
Okay. So I'm going to share your screen. So here we go.
Let's see, it's got do a mini experiment on how plants need sunlight. Have a small contained compost bin with a worm farm. Describe or to record the changes inferring the decomposer's role. Still define the roles, but focus on the why. So that's a good idea there.
Mm-hmm.
And then key DOK2 shifts. This is cool. Hands-on application. Go from labeling to explaining. Cause and effect. What did ChatGPT do for yours? You said yours came out with a answer key?
Yeah, mine came out with more questions for like a quiz, which again, a quiz is going to be really important. What it did not do, but it used some different languages. It says activities for differentiated learning, students approaching proficiency, for proficient students, and then students who are exceeding. So, I mean, it took the DOKs, but it also kind of changed the way. So like these students would work on a matching game. These students would work on a food web. These students would use the food web to impact analysts.
That's a very interesting breakdown.
Yeah.
That is actually really cool.
Yeah, I kind of like the way that it's also thinking like, where are my students at? Because I think goal setting is a huge part of building student ownership and getting them really excited about their learning. So I do kind of like how it kind of says like, okay, this student you're approaching, you're almost there, but here you are proficient, but you still need to maybe work on it. Here you're exceeding. So let's challenge your thinking as well. And so for us, we're going to take some of these DOK ideas. So what's something that we could do at the DOK level 1 area, Jared?
You could do a basic just vocabulary.
Yeah.
Vocabulary lesson.
A lot of our students struggle with vocabulary, so I think that can be really helpful. You also might do like something like task cards.
Mm-hmm.
DOK level 2. So again, we're going up. This is where our students are kind of explaining. So they might explain how a rabbit fits into the ecosystem. Maybe you pick one animal and then they just have to justify, they have to explain why that is. DOK level 3 is where students could compare and contrast. So again, we're getting a little bit more harder, where students are going to start comparing and contrasting the different roles. What do they notice is difference between a consumer? What do they notice is different between a producer? And again, there's so many different activities that you could do with these different tasks, such as digital or non-digital, with your students as well.
The DOK level 4, I like it because you're applying all of that knowledge. So you're taking all of that stuff and applying it.
Yeah. So then you could develop a plan, right? It's like, okay, we have to protect our local ecosystem around here, maybe making it project-based.
I like that too. And then like for me, if I was teaching science, what is the ecosystem around the school? And have students come up with a plan to protect that. I know, for example, my school is kind of in a wetland area. So, all the different things we could have students do to apply their knowledge.
So again, think about the different levels and how you can support differentiation within your classroom. Because again, if your students are starting to develop these skills, we need to use all of the different DOK levels to support their learning. And so now we're going to explore some ways that you could use technology to support you. Okay, so we have a couple different ways that you can use technology to really support your learning when it comes to using AI. And we would love to know more. So if you know more ways that you can help your students with learning, maybe again, it's like Google Workspace, or maybe you are like, I use this website, but we're going to go over just some other sites that can really, really help you for the last few moments of our session. So the first one is Kami. You can kind of see here on this collaborative document, my students can brainstorm together different ideas to help their learning. But what you can also do in Kami, I'm going to pull up this month's quiz, is I can go ahead and open this up with Kami. When I open up this resource up in Kami, I'm able to create questions. And there's two different ways that you can create questions. Sometimes your curriculum already has your questions laid out for you. And so if that's the case, you can just convert, and I can convert this document, page number 1, and it takes my questions on the page and actually types them for me. So sometimes I like to think of AI as just that way to take away some workload, because for me, this would have been a Saturday morning activity where I would have sat down, retyped my questions into a computer so it would give automatic feedback to my students. However, because of AI, it's taking away that work from me, and it's able to create those questions over on this side panel for me. Another way that you might use Kami with questions is maybe this Google slide right here. I don't have questions created. I just have different activities that I want my students to complete. And so I'm going to go ahead and create this activity in Kami. And again, I go over to that questions area. And underneath that questions, I'm now going to hit generate. What I love about generating questions in Kami is under advanced settings, you can change the DOK level. And so in my classroom, what I did is I used to do these heat warm-ups, and I would have my students try to get as hot as they could. So they would start at level 1, move to level 2, level 3, level 4. But again, it was really exciting to kind of see them work towards mastering the knowledge, and I was able to see where they were at in their learning. So we're going to do DOK level 1. I'm going to add another question. And this time it's going to be level 2. I'm going to add another one, but this time I'm going to make it short answer. One question, and we're going to make it a level 3. And then we need one more question, and I want that last question to be at the level 4 area. And then I hit generate. Again, it takes just a few seconds. A lot of time is saved because I'm able to just do this right into Kami with my activity over here. It's picking up page number 1 and going to create those DOK questions for me. Have you used this yet, Jared?
This is one of my favorite features of Kami.
Mm-hmm.
Like adding that was a huge deal. Like,
yeah. And so we got 5 more seconds, but then I can go into my Google Classroom, Canvas, Microsoft Teams, or Schoology, go into my class. And once I am in my class, I'm able to find that class, and I can come in and I can go to classwork, create a Kami assignment. If you make it a Kami assignment, what's great about that is you have this thing called Class View. And with Class View, you can see all of your students at the exact same time, which is actually my favorite feature. Love Kami questions, but I actually love Class View a little bit more because it allows me as a special education teacher, I can differentiate. I can come in here and say, oh, this student needs this graphic organizer. Over at the top, you have answers. This is where you can see in real time. Your students don't have to submit. They're able to see in real time how they are answering these questions. And then you can pull small groups to support your students. Like, for example, Oliver right here, I might need to pull him over to a small group. There's also this button up here called Insights, where I can view my class, top, medium, and lowest scores. And then I can also view which questions my students missed. So I can look over here to say, oh, what happened with question 4 and 5? Only 25% of my students got that correct. I can go in, do a mini lesson, reteach that concept, and see how they're doing on that information. So Jared, what do you want to show? What are you excited to share today? And I'll share your screen.
I will say mine is going to be Adobe Express, and I am trying to find her tablets.
I've been seeing a lot of Adobe Express with Melissa Kincaid. I don't know if you are familiar with Melissa Kincaid, Jared.
Mm-hmm.
She is amazing, and she's been doing. I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you could do that in Adobe Express. And she's like, yes, you can. And I was like, what?
There's a lot of neat things. All right, now we can share my screen.
Okay, got it.
There we go. So just a little blurb about Adobe Express. It is free for educators. Your school has to sign up so you get the full version, which looks like this. The free version has a completely different screen. But this is what the education side looks like. And what I absolutely love about Adobe Express is just different things you can do with it. So, you want the students to create an infographic. Well, there it is right there. They can create an infographic right on the spot. Make a video. They can edit video and create video really easily within Adobe Express. They can add music. There's a whole music library. There is a picture library, so you can bring in photos from the internet. You can bring in stuff that is already in their library, or my favorite part is you can generate it with AI. So Adobe Express generative image is powered by Firefly, and you can generate pretty much any image you are looking for. And you can add that to projects, add that to your infographics, build a web page, that DOK level 4, where they are having to apply their knowledge and implement a plan to protect an ecosystem. Well, why not build a web page for it? You can build that. You can have students animate characters. So if you want to, do a whole program, and students tend to respond better to cartoons than maybe their teacher or each other, animate a cartoon with it and have it describe an ecosystem or what a carnivore, herbivore is, those kind of things. What I also too really enjoy about it is it saves your stuff. So, all your most recent things here, you can see some of my recent stuff down here. Saves your stuff into a folder. Teachers, there is Adobe Express Classroom, and I'll show you what this looks like. So if you are wanting to assign things to students, templates that you have created, templates that are within Adobe Express, you can create courses here, link them to Google Classroom, or you can link them manually. I know there is the Google Classroom link. There isn't anything as at the moment for Schoology or Canvas, but you can join them through a join code. But you can sync that stuff here and then assign students work. And I'll go into a class I know I have a lot of stuff in for. But you can see here, I can create an assignment. And again, this could be a template that Adobe already has available, because if you go to Educator Resources or under the Learn button, there are a ton of different templates and activity ideas that you can use. And you can also create your own, and then you assign it to students, and they click and go. And you're able to view it, share it, grade it, and return it back to them all at one fell swoop. So there's a lot of things to go with Adobe Express. I could spend probably another hour explaining all the different things and having us do stuff, but definitely have your IT team reach out to Adobe for education so you can get linked up to the free Adobe Express, because again, it's free. And like I said, all the project ideas you can do with it. Web pages, just like Cami, I feel like Cami can take, instead of, I'm a Google Workspace school, so you do a lot of slides and you get kind of bored of slides after a while. I know I do, I know the students do. So you can throw things into Cami to make it more interactive, and you can also do an Adobe Express, create a really cool, engaging slide presentation. It's a little bit better than Google Slides. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I love the ideas of even just creating a website, right? And having your students go deeper in those AI generated images. It's insane what Adobe can do.
And one of the things too, I didn't even mention it, like building a web page or something like that. If you build resources like a video or a graphic organizer ahead of time, you can pull those into the web page. So when you're building a web page, you can go to your files and say add to it, and boom, you have a very cool web page and project.
Yeah. So feel free to create maybe a screencast or provide a slide deck of what you're using, right? What are you using to spark engagement into your lessons? So maybe it's Adobe, maybe it's Cami, maybe it's something else. We want to see it. So again, on this page, you can add a comment, drop in a YouTube video, a resource, type the name of the website, because we are so interested to see what else is out there that you're using to engage your students. Or if you're like, I am also an Adobe user, just use the sticker tool and give us some love right here to let us know that you're like, me too. But thank you guys so much for joining us today. I had a lot of fun learning about different ways to prompt AI. I don't know about you, Jared, but I feel like I was like, oh my gosh, we need to adjust this and add the DOK level. That was really helpful for me today. What was your biggest takeaway?
My biggest takeaway was seeing the difference between the two, really.
Yeah.
It is very intriguing to me that you get they're very similar, but also very different at the same time. So to me, if I have the time, I would put the same prompt, write a prompt, put the same prompt in either or in both programs and just see what comes out.
Yeah, for sure.
Tweak the best ideas.
Yeah. So again, thank you so much for joining us today. We want to know what your biggest takeaway was. So feel free to share on social media. You can grab a comment tool and add it to this document. If you do share it on social media, tag us so we can like, retweet, and comment back to you, because we would love to connect with you on the social medias. So again, thank you so much for joining us. Any last words of advice, Jared, before we close us out?
I would say don't be afraid of AI. I know there's still a lot of fear out there about it. It is a hard thing to embrace. I know it's something brand new. It's something that we don't know a whole lot about. But don't be afraid to reach out to other people, to take that Google course. That was a huge help to me when it first came out and trying to understand all of this. And then because of that, the prompt writing, you're just going to get better the more you practice, the more you try it. And like I said, just don't be afraid of it.
Yeah, for sure. So again, thank you so much for joining us. All of the resources are found here at this link. So make sure you join this link so that way you can access all of the materials for today's session, and you can collaborate with us so we can also adapt and steal and use your ideas as well. So again, thank you so much for joining us, and start to question the machine.
Thank you all.